The following was originally broadcast on Northumberland 89.7 FM. For more podcasts and learn more about us, go to northumberland897.ca. And thank you for downloading this podcast.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Good afternoon and welcome to Piccini at the Park. I'm Linda Kay, your
Hello?
host, and joining me today is David Piccini. How are you, David?
Can't hear you.
Oh, David can't hear us. We're just trying to get him set up here so he can hear us.
Pete, can you hear me? I can't hear you.
I can hear you.
We can hear him.
I can't hear you. Fortunately, no audio.
Okay, just hang on 1 minute there, David, and we'll see if we can sort this out for you.
There, I got you.
Have you got us?
Yes.
David, it's good to see you. Last time I saw you was in December, and it was just before you were be able to have a little bit of a break for Christmas. So I hope you had a great holiday season.
I did, thank you. A very happy New Year to you and the team at Truly Local. I see you're just back. I hope you enjoyed visiting with your daughter and family, and looking forward to the new year, Linda. It's an exciting year ahead.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk a little bit about. But I thought maybe we might reminisce a little bit about 2022 and maybe talk about some of your highlights for the past year.
Yeah, it's been obviously a challenging past year with the COVID pandemic and everything. However, I would say it's been, a good year in that, Ontarians, our community are back together, normalcy to our lives. On a more personal note, this past year of 2022 was an exciting one for me and our team in government because we won an election and we were reelected with a mandate to address affordability, to rebuild the economy, build the critical infrastructure we need tomorrow, support workers in an increasingly interconnected global world and a competitive economy, keep costs down, and a plan to keep Ontario open. And so I'm excited about that and excited with the work that we've done. I mean, tackling the generation that have been banished to their parents' basements because they, attainable homeownership is not realistic. But look at what we've got. We've got a new mix of deep affordable coming online with the Elgin Park redevelopment. We have the support of groups like Habitat for Humanity who are on our housing task force and who are doing an interesting mix and supporting measures we took in Bill 23. We have attainable homeownership. If you look at the areas like Cobourg with what Tribute have planned there, New Amherst and others. So there's more supply coming online. Intensification around transit as well, which is really exciting, and expanding public transit. This will be the first full year of Commuter Connect. Northumberland, which was the first time ever. When I was elected, we'd never even mentioned GO Train. We weren't in their business plan. For folks that don't believe me, just check it. It's publicly available. Northumberland, it was like the N-word. Nobody wanted to say Northumberland. And so now they are, and they're servicing Northumberland. The second big piece, as I reflect on the last year, was the monumental announcement on broadband. Again, this pandemic showed us the need to stay, interconnected. I'm in my Toronto office joining you in Cobourg, and we both have reliable internet. For too many in our community, that's not the reality. But we've partnered in a collaborative manner with Northumberland County and with a number of telecom providers as well to really treat broadband as a utility, a road that anyone can drive on, empowering the consumers and setting the condition for more choice. Now, ultimately, we need the federal government to show some leadership to create a little more competition. I think we've seen the disaster that is Via Rail and our provincial rail network and even our flight network. That's what happens when you don't have competition and you have monopolies. And so I think, we've set the groundwork locally for increased competition. I've got small telecom providers reaching out to me, and that's exciting. And this is connecting everybody by 2025. So that's another big piece. And the last piece that I would reflect on is investments in rural community that was left behind by previous governments. We've got a new senior center, Drive by Town Park. Shovels are in the ground. The building's coming along. We've got a new arena in Keene that's underway, 100% provincial dollars there. We've got a new arena expansion in Norwood. We've got a new roof at King Edward Park Arena. We're supporting roads and bridges that are bringing in new investment in places like Port Hope. So I'm really excited about what that means to a vibrant community that I represent and that I'm incredibly proud to be a part of, because we live in the best community in Ontario and we deserve modern, accessible recreation and cultural activities here. And that's what the government of Ontario is investing in.
Well, it's certainly, 2022 was an interesting year. I mean, we didn't know how we would come out of the pandemic, but certainly once we started coming out of that, it's been amazing all that has happened. There's no doubt about that. We've seen in the investments that the government has put in to our community locally, there has certainly is making a difference here in Northumberland, because, for many years we've always were the community where either everything was going to Durham or it was going to Quinte West or it was going up to Peterborough. We were always kind of the forgotten community in many ways, and we had to keep putting our hands up. Don't forget, we live in Northumberland. We need stuff in Northumberland. Certainly I found that a lot when I was working in the social service type of world. We were always putting our hands up looking for supports here. So it's great to see those investments happening. There's no doubt about that, David. And certainly it was a busy 2022. And I guess now we have to look at, right now I think people are a little worried about where the economy is going and what's happening. And I think that's on a lot of people's minds as we enter into 2023. There's no doubt about that. People are, are we going to have a recession? Will we see that type of thing? And I just wonder what the government's thinking as we move forward into 2023.
Well, ultimately, I'll leave it to MP Lawrence and the Bank of Canada to talk a little more about, how they're approaching it from a fiscal standpoint with interest rates, et cetera. But provincially, we're very excited by sound statistics like the one I'm about to mention. In December, Ontario led Canada in job creation. We led Canada in 2022 in job creation. And we're creating a competitive climate. We've reduced the cost of doing business in Ontario by $7 billion with a B through things like industrial class A and B electricity rates. So for folks wondering, well, what does that mean? What's Piccini talking about? Government don't create jobs. We create the condition for jobs. And what does that mean? Well, it means a lot for a player like Jebco. I reached out to them. Visited them actually during the campaign, during shift change. It was recently up at Blommer's Chocolate and Empire Cheese. Who doesn't like chocolate and cheese? Well, I can tell you that when I spoke to Peter Blommer, who is the former CEO of Blommer's Chocolates, they've now been taken over by a Japanese company, but they weren't sure. Ontario was closed for business. The unpredictable nature of electricity rates, and I'm trying to be impartial here. Like, Ontario has clean electricity, and I think the previous government took some gambles that were ill-advised on the electricity file that ultimately, they were voted out of office for. However, we have a clean grid, and they deserve credit for some of the elements of that, and we deserve credit for a lot of the stabilization efforts that we've done and measures through Class A and B. And I think what the net result of that is attracting businesses that want to expand. Mermill's expanded into Campbellford from Trenton. We've got Premier Tech growing in Brighton. We've got CPK on the forefront, adding a third shift to support with the work that they're doing. I recently visited. I'm pleading let's get more politicians, elected folks visiting these major manufacturers. Let's get talking and let's take pride in the incredible work that they're doing. I'm proud of Blommer's. I'm proud of Empire Cheese. I'm incredibly proud of the men and women at CPK, some of whom drive, over an hour just to get to work. And let's start talking about the conditions to empower individuals to control their lives, to grow, to provide for their families. And I'm excited about our community and what we're doing, because I believe in the abilities of the men and women of this community, and I believe that we're a great place to work, raise, and work and raise a family.
Well, I mean, manufacturing has always played a major role here in Northumberland County, and it's great to see that. And I know, having been on the Chamber of Commerce, is one of the issues always was electricity rates. That the rates they'd get these surprise bills and things would just be outrageous, and a lot of their American ownership could not understand that. How come this
Yeah, and
happens, right? So, to think that maybe that has been addressed to help them and to keep helping them expand and to stay here is a big thing for us.
absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Predictability. That is
Mm.
what people are looking for. Governments and parties of different stripe, will be ultimately judged on how you handle things. But ultimately, I think we can all agree the policies that we implement, ultimately how that affects the predictable nature of doing business matters. And it matters to investments and to job creation. And so we're creating a predictable climate in Ontario, one in which we've seen 16.16 billion with a B in automotive investments that is tangibly benefiting our local community. I gave the CPK example. And I'm I'm really, excited and bullish about where we're going. I just am on the heels of a roundtable on our emissions performance standards, working with industry. And, we're excited about our automotive sector, and we're excited about Ontario's opportunity to be a leader in critical minerals. We launched Premier Ford, the province's first ever critical mineral strategy, a 5-year roadmap to work with Indigenous communities, to work with unions and trades, and empower skilled trades. It's backed up by a lot of investments into the skilled trades, and we can take pride knowing that we're building these critical components, nickel, cobalt, lithium, all of the minerals we need. We're not dependent on Africa, China, other jurisdictions. We can do it all in Ontario, and for an investor who knows that you can get the critical minerals, you can invest in a developed nation like Canada with sound economics. You can meet your ESG requirements, environmental, social governance, all of those requirements, and you've got one of the cleanest electricity grids on planet Earth. Like, that's the winning mixture, and I'm very excited about what that means.
Well, one thing I was reading while I was away, a couple of articles. One was it's interesting to see how the nuclear industry is expanding. And certainly here, we're going to see a new nuclear reactor built not far from us. But it's interesting to see that's happening, after, what happened in Japan 10 years ago and such. It's interesting to see that. So that helps people like Cameco and such, and for that to continue to grow and build. The other thing is the need for us actually to get into the critical mineral side of things, because otherwise, pushing for everybody to have electric cars, the challenge is being able to have the lithium to to manufacture the batteries and not be dependent on countries like China.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've got a competitive automotive tech and life sciences sector. Our minister was just down in the States touting that, Minister Fedeli, and dependency. I mean, the global pandemic has shown us the need to not be, while it's great to live I'm a free trade, I'm a believer in free trade and interconnected global world, but you also need to be, there are certain things and domestically that you've got to be able to do. Food supply, our priority key industries, and we have to protect them and promote them. And you mentioned chemical, like let's not forget that some of the first people to step up to support mental health, to support
Mm-hmm.
Cornerstone, to support these groups are players like Cameco. So there are some in our community who only believe that the taxpayer and government should foot the bill of all of this and would be completely content demonizing or sending these industries out. And unfortunately, fortunately for us and they don't hold the balance of power in our community, and they don't represent the views of community members, because we're a better community with players like Cameco contributing, to all of these philanthropic initiatives, social initiatives. We're a better community when we together support one another. And it's not solely government, because, I can actually say, from someone who's had a glimpse inside cabinet, inside the legislature, we have remarkable people in government doing remarkable things, but us alone, like, you don't want government alone doing all of this. So I'm very grateful for these organizations who choose our community, who invest in our community, and are the first to step up when our community's in need. And that's a special mixture that we've all got to cultivate and work hard at preserving and supporting. And I know that these industries, have needs. We're about to embark right now on the pre-budget consultation, which is an important tool government uses to listen to them, to make sure we're doing what we can. And I know Northumberland County, our local municipalities are embarking on their local budget processes as well. So we're all working together on that. I had some good conversations, with my municipal counterparts, with the Northumberland County CAO yesterday. So I'm very excited about where we're all going, and we'll be better when we row together in the same direction.
For sure. And when you talk about, there always has to be that balance between government and private industry, or private support, and especially when you look at issues like mental health and that. And certainly over the years, we've seen that grow with the support that we do find from the private sector to support a lot of local causes. And certainly Cameco has been a big player there, along with a lot of other local manufacturers and businesses. There's no doubt about it. So David, as we you look into 2023, what about your portfolio as the Minister of Environment? What do you see as some of your priorities for this coming year?
Oh, it's a great question. Well, we have quite a few. So we're looking at permissions right now, and our whole process. I mean, one of the themes of the climate conference was our efforts to decarbonize, our efforts to really reduce the amount of pollutants that are entering the environment, be it air, land, or water. Those efforts can be marred by process and procedure and red tape, potentially, that it has the potential to elongate the process. And so I'm having really good conversations, for example, of some innovative work being done in the housing sector on stormwater management. And ultimately, that's, where does the water go? And so they're doing some really cool work on retention tanks that are under places like a park, and then they get they get granted a recognition for the parks that are above ground. And it's really neat. And that's a way we deal with flood mitigation as well. So that's some cool conversations that we had today. We're working with industry on some really bold initiatives and targets for net zero and decarbonization in industry, which is really exciting. This is the year we will announce the location of the new Ontario Provincial Park. So very excited about that as an avid parks goer. We're also working. We just announced the new excess soils regulation. Folks in rural Ontario, especially like Ward 2 Port Hope, who've called me and said, these dump trucks of illegal dumping. Well, your Ministry of Environment is acting on that and making sure that we don't have illegal dumping of excess soils. Chief Mowat has spoken with me about that. So we're working hard on that front to track and trace the soil that we're using, which can be used progressive ways for fill, for development. So there's so much going on. I've given you a bit of a rundown there of some of the cool stuff that we're doing, and also water. The largest ever plastics initiative in Lake Ontario with Pollution Probe in Cobourg Harbour. We've got some exciting announcements coming up, not the least of which Ontario Zoo right now is showcasing their campaign right now on some of those plastics we've captured. We're reusing it on walkways at the zoo. We've made a big polar bear to really, highlight and raise awareness to the effect of plastics in our environment. And it's pretty cool because, it's circular economy. This is also the year that we start transitioning communities away from the old blue box system, which was, this system that 400 different blue box programs to one Ontario blue box program that's going to recycle more, save our landfills. So much going on. I'm excited.
So the recycling program comes into play this year. It was interesting when I was away in Switzerland. Over there, it's really interesting, David. You actually have to take you take your recycle. You can take it to the supermarket, and they have it all set up where you can recycle your cardboard, your plastics, your metal cans. They'll have a place you can walk to. Actually, the metal cans, they even have you put them in you recycle them, but then you have a handle you turn to break them all down. It's pretty interesting. The other thing they recycle there, which is really interesting, is stale bread. So yeah, they you take your stale bread and you put it in the box, and they give it all to the farmers.
Well, that's great. And I mean, I know we're doing sort of interesting stuff there. Minister Thompson, our agriculture minister, and I brought a new submission to cabinet last year on anaerobic digestion on farms, which is a great source for organics, that essentially organics that end up in landfill create methane, which is a very harmful pollutant in the air, and we can reduce that. In fact, we're generating energy from landfills, which is powering places like Ingersoll, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is where we're developing the new EV Bright Drop truck, which is
that's right, down in the
delivery.
Cami plant down there. Yeah, that's happening down there. Yeah, I was reading about that.
Really, yeah, and I think, I bet you when you're in Switzerland, you didn't see different programs from Innsbruck to, from Zurich to other communities. It's probably, regardless of where you are in Switzerland, it's the same program, and that's what we're going to have in Ontario, which is exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's interesting over there. They don't have anybody pick up your garbage. You actually have to take it places and drop it off. It's much different than here. So my daughter Elizabeth always says, "You guys are so lucky because they come to the bottom of your driveway and pick up your garbage." Over here, you've got to take it places. You got to take your recycles, you got to take your garbage and such, and it's very expensive. Your garbage very expensive. The one thing. Because they live in the mountains, they can't compost. It's too high up. I couldn't understand that. So yeah, so it's kind of interesting. But anyhow, so actually right now, I guess I know this is more on the federal level, but certainly our prime minister is having talks down in Mexico right now, and certainly some of those talks will revolve around the auto industry. So hopefully that helps Ontario, those talks.
I hope so. I'm optimistic. Anything that we can do to help build Ontario. I know our finance minister's in New York right now talking about our plan to build Ontario. And we're certainly excited about the strength of our automotive sector. And again, I gotta again remind folks, when you're investing in mining in the north, in Northern Ontario, you're investing in places like Agnico, for example, who have a massive skilled trades program empowering Indigenous youth. And in turn, their broader corporate directive is educating an entire workforce on the Indigenous communities in their own backyard. And I mean, how cool is that if we had workforces learning more about Alderville, Hiawatha, Williams Tree? And that's what happens again when we're doing that. And if you look at Matagami First Nation, for example, the reclamation work that they're doing, this is led by and for an Indigenous community, and that's being funded, in large part by industry who are choosing to invest in Ontario, and that's exciting, really, really, really exciting. And I think a lot of people don't know that. I was just out for dinner with a local gal here who's now in environmental science and actually working for a mining company. Her family live here locally. I don't want to out them, so I won't name who they are. But she said to me, I thought mining was bad. And sadly, that's probably what they're saying in our school system. But but it's not the case. And, and we're seeing it firsthand in the North. And boy, what an eye opener it was for me. I mean, it shouldn't take getting elected to get up there and see firsthand what's happening. And don't get me wrong, there has to be oversight. There has to be responsible critical mineral strategies and stewardship, responsible permissions process through the environment, mining, extraction, landfill permits that you get, environmental assessment. But I'm proud because when, we do it right here in Ontario and in Canada.
Mm-hmm. So, David, a couple of things before we close up. We got about under 5 minutes, about 4 minutes. One of them is on the New Year, your levee that's going to happen on this Sunday at the Legion.
I hope to see you there.
Yes. I have RSVP'd.
Oh, good. Yeah, it'll be fun. I love the onion and cheese sandwich that the Legion does. I know I'm weird. People think I'm weird. My wife thinks I'm weird, but I like that. I can't wait. And it'll be fun. We're just going to gather. There'll be a lot of municipal leaders there as well. Just an opportunity to gather, talk about the year ahead, and for folks in our community to come and either just celebrate the new year upon us, or if you have some feedback, things you want to see, it's a great opportunity to share that with me and with other elected members and community leaders that will be there. So I'm very excited, and I hope everyone will come between 11 a.m., 2 p.m., Coburg Legion on Orr Street.
And one of the things will be hopefully there will be a few people that come that have not seen the new Legion, and certainly it's a really beautiful new Legion for here in Coburg.
It is. It's a beautiful new Legion. I was proud that the government of Ontario supported financially this new Legion, and it's just it's beautiful and a great way to continue to honor and respect veterans in this country. We're reading sad stories right now about the realities veterans are facing, but I think from a provincial standpoint, we're always going to really stand by and support our veterans to the best extent we can through provincial services and supporting places like the Legion. And I'm a Legion member myself at Branch 133, and I'm just really hope people come and see that beautiful place. And if you thought about it and maybe weren't sure, maybe join the Legion in 2023.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So, geez, I had one more question and I'm almost blanking here. Let's see. Peter's giving me the wrap up, but we've got a couple more minutes. So, David, when you think about it, so when do you go back to the legislature? That's was my because I know by the end of March, by March 31st, you have to present a new budget. I know that, but I wasn't quite sure when your time in the writing was up and you had to go back to the legislature.
We're back right after Family Day on the 21st of February. What's happening between now and then? Well, I've got a few pop-up offices around the riding where we're listening and getting out. I'm doing a lot of business visits. I was out in Campbellford and others listening to employers and manufacturers and their needs as we head into the budget process. Doing some door knocking as well, just talking to everyday folks in our community about what they want to see, having public events like the levee, to hear from people about what they want to see in 2023, having strategic planning sessions with partners like the county, upper and lower tier government, what they want to see for 2023. I'm also leading that consultation on environment and permissions across the province right now. I'm announcing at the end of the month a really cool new partnership with 2 First Nation communities and Ontario parks. So I'm heading up north for that at the end of the month. We've worked really hard at that. So that's an exciting announcement. We also have a local announcement coming up with Nature Conservancy of Canada. So that's exciting towards the mid-end of January. And in February, some pre-budget consultations. And then, we'll inform what should be a very busy return to the legislature.
Well, you're certainly not sitting still while the legislature's on a break, which I
Yes.
didn't expect you would be. But
No.
anyhow, really appreciate you taking a half hour to talk to us today, David. It's great to see you again, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care, David. And thank you for tuning in to Piccini at the Park.